Hello and welcome to This Multidisciplinary Life. Today's guest is Elena Tsalanidis. She's the co-founder of Deeligence, a legal tech startup helping corporate lawyers streamline due diligence with AI. She's a former lawyer in Australia and the UK and a legal process expert. In addition to her commercial nous and legal expertise, Elena is a strong advocate for women in legal tech and is the current Vice President of the Australasian Legal Tech Association. Today's conversation is a special one. Going from practicing lawyer in someone else's firm to building your own company is no mean feat. It takes guts, resilience, and an enduring self-belief that must shine through even when times feel bleak or uncertain. If you're not prepared to put in the work to sustain an endurance mindset, starting and running a company can be tough. In today's conversation, we cover questions such as, what's it like to be in someone else's business and then take the leap to start your own? How do you develop skills that help you increase your risk appetite? What is it actually like to mentor and coach people in other disciplines? And if you were going to start your own company today, what are some lessons you could take from Elena's experience that would help you on your journey? This conversation elaborates on all these ideas and more. So let's get into it and chat through this multidisciplinary life with Elena Tsalanidis. Elena, hi. I'm so excited we're having this conversation today. We have quite a bit to talk about, quite a few questions to work through, and I'm confident we are going to head off on many, many tangents. My first question for you, though, is what brought you to the law?
Sure. So I was always interested in being a lawyer from very, very young. I think I probably have quite a strong sense of justice and had just always envisaged myself being someone that could help people. It probably didn't hurt. I was pretty good at arguing as well. So with two younger siblings, I was that eldest daughter energy. And I, frankly, just worked hard. I didn't necessarily consider myself like a particularly smart person, but I was someone who, when they set their mind on a goal, just worked hard. And interestingly, I think persistence is such a virtue because maybe you might not feel you have the raw talent, but if you work hard at anything, you can pretty much get there. So I kind of tapped on that and worked my way in and got into law school.
Amazing, amazing. You mentioned that justice is really important to you. Where do you think that comes from?
I think there are certain characteristics that are just innate in all of us. And I'm someone that despises like intolerance. I think things can be really unfair and I get a bit worked up about them. So for other people, things might just roll off their back. But I was always that kid who was like, well, why is that like that? Or when I got a job in a law firm, I would find myself saying, why do we do it that way? And the answer that would enrage me was, oh, that's the way we've always done it. And what I found really interesting looking back at my career is I would say, it doesn't have to be that way at all. So I guess a bit rogue by me, but realizing that things didn't have to be the way that people told you they were. And I think a line that has followed me through my career is, okay, well, that might be the process that someone else has done. Well, I'll build a different process, or we could be more efficient if we did X, Y, Z. And so I think pretty soon being in a law firm for me was a relatively positive experience. I worked with some lovely people, but I found the environment perhaps not innovative or entrepreneurial enough. I don't know if that was my sense of justice or just someone who questions and asks why and then says, well, why not something else?
Yeah, yeah. With that mindset, how did you find law school?
I loved uni. So I did an arts degree as like alongside a law degree.
Yeah.
And I majored in French and politics. I always loved languages. And I thought the balance of law and arts was great because like law is obviously relatively demanding and lots of reading. And in arts, it just felt like it was easy and straightforward and still challenging in its own way. But it was a good balance. So I really liked uni. Uni is not necessarily representative of what it's like to be a lawyer, I would say. So you learn the academic side of the law in this safe and collegiate environment. And then you get into a law firm and you kind of have to throw out everything you learned because it's not actually practical real life experience. It's something else. And it's not, I'm not here to argue whether it's good or bad, but I don't know if law school does a good job of preparing you for being a lawyer, to be frank. I think it's a testament to having stuck out something and achieved marks and having proven that you can do that. But being a lawyer is very different. Being a lawyer is commercial, learning how to write for clients. At uni, you're told, you know, plagiarism is bad. Don't copy anything. Reinvent the wheel. Come up with fresh ideas. And that has value. You get into a law firm and it's like, use our precedent bank. Don't try not to think of anything new. We've done it before. Find a template, build from it. So I just think they're completely different skills, which is why it can take law firms 2 to 3 years to kind of get ROI back on their junior team members because they're training them from scratch.
Yeah, it's an interesting insight. And even hearing you talk about the other areas that you majored in with French and politics, you're very much taught the law in law school as a framework and a system and a structure and a language as such. And so learning that language but then applying that language is 2 different ways, like two different things essentially. Learning the language at uni is very different to then speaking it.
Totally agree.
And using it, same as French, learning the language and you know, learning how to write French and speak French is very different to then trying to have a conversation with someone in 100%. French as well.
Yeah. There's this, I think that people that work in law firms, if you spend a couple years in a law firm, I think it's one of the best training grounds to be a functioning professional. So even in my business now, we love hiring lawyers because what does lawyer equal? What it equals is exceptional client service, someone that's got to be focused on attention to detail, someone who by all accounts tries to meet a deadline. And if they can't meet a deadline, they are communicating like, hey, Sarah, I wanted to get you this thing by Friday. It looks like it's going to be Monday. So these things that we take for granted in other work environments, essentially. So I think it's a superpower. The flip side is being a good black letter lawyer doesn't necessarily mean you have startup fit or you want to be in an entrepreneurial environment because you might just like delivering great academic legal advice. But I think the great lawyers sit across those 2 camps of being exceptional at what they do in delivering legal advice, but also, you know, if you're a senior associate or a partner, understanding cultural dynamics at a firm, winning work, going out and hunting for work and finding clients like that. That is a skill set that you need to upskill on if you're at a law firm. Yeah.
All those skills around influence and learning people and reading people. There's no real textbook for that, or there's no subject at uni to take while you're at law school.
Totally. I think it's probably about half the job, you know, like if Sarah says something's urgent and you've got to do the work for her, but actually she says that all the time. So
what does that mean?
What does that mean? Like that's half, like finding the lay of the land, that's half the battle, I think.
Absolutely. I want to switch direction a little bit because I'm conscious you went from practicing lawyer to owning your own company and starting your own company. And there's this real shift where someone goes from being effectively an employee to running their own business and being responsible for the bank account and everything that goes with that. What was that moment like for you? Take me through it. What went through your mind?
Do you mean like opening the business or now having the business and looking back and noticing the change?
Let's start with opening the business.
Okay.
And then we'll get to now.
If I'm honest, I found this starting pretty easy. I occasionally felt like law was a little slow moving. As a junior lawyer, you're kind of a cog in a bigger system. And so you don't always have a lot of client contact, or there's such a strict hierarchy that you're reporting to a senior associate who's reporting to a partner who's having the relationship meeting where you actually want to be and you want to have a seat at the table. So those things like frustrated me, to be perfectly frank. And so starting a business, while without a doubt presenting many, many challenges, it just happened with these small little steps that together now looking back, you're like, wow, we've really moved. We've really achieved a lot of things. But at the time, the way it started, and I'm happy to share, was me and my co-founder thought there was a problem worth solving. And so we spent months doing interviews with different lawyers of different levels of seniority across different jurisdictions to try and understand if there was a problem worth solving. So we asked lots of questions. We felt like we had validated there was a problem. And then from there it was, okay, let's incorporate a company, let's build some designs, let's hire some developers. That entire trajectory was always speaking to people to make sure we were delivering value. And so that bit didn't feel hard. And probably I'm the sort of person that's rather predisposed to being interested in running their own company. Like I think that has always been me. I've always been entrepreneurial. So I think I've found where I was meant to be. I can be a lawyer. I've been a lawyer. I think I was okay. But I think I'm really great at what I'm doing now. So now that I look back at that journey, probably I've just found the right home, like building a team, working stuff out, learning things on the job, asking mentors and advisors thoughts where you don't necessarily have the skills. That I'm really good at. I love that. And so I think that served me well. So looking back, I think I'm in the job, the profession that completely sets me on fire. I love it in a way that probably that was not me at a law firm, even though I could do the role functionally.
Yeah. You mentioned there were some challenges starting your own thing.
Oh, yeah.
What were some of they?
Oh my gosh. I saw this thing on the internet and it said like, what are the most unhinged things you've ever done as a founder? I was like, oh, so many. There are a lot of challenges in serving law firms. Lawyers, understandably, are highly skeptical, time-poor people. So capturing their attention and selling them a solution that will save them time and better their lives, you're fighting for attention. And they're in the business of delivering exceptional client advice, right? Not chatting to people who can maybe help them with the tech solution. So yeah, for sure, selling software, AI solutions to lawyers is challenging. But some of the unhinged things that we've done, we went to an early conference with a prototype of our solution that did some things but didn't do a lot of things. And we demoed it like it was a fully formed product rather. And so, yeah, you've just got to scrap. Or someone will say, you know, do you have this? In early days, mind you, we have these now. But someone would say, you know, what's your cyber policy that relates to XYZ? And then you think, we better get one of those. And so you have to write one to say that you have one to pass through a firm's InfoSec procedures. So there's just like a million versions of that along the way.
That is brilliant. I love the scrappiness of making sure that the business is running and building.
And probably something to add there, one thing that me and my co-founder talk about that like being lawyers makes us exceptional in a lot of ways, and I think makes us great founders across many different skills that we need in our roles. But the negative is that we too are perfectionists and risk averse, right? And even the way we talk about our business, we are reasonable and we're level-headed and we're not probably embodying some characteristics that people think of when they think of brash tech founders. It's something that I think we could get better at, but also it means that when we say something like we're going to deliver, right, we have to achieve it because that's just our training. So I think it's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah. How do you push past those moments where you're thinking, oh, lawyer brain is really kicking in here.
Yeah.
Risk-averse brain is really kicking in here, but we know we have to do this.
Running a startup, you are constantly putting out fires and deciding between competing priorities. And so you have to make calls that are line calls all the time with imperfect information. That's something I really struggle with. We had a similar conversation with my co-founder and tech lead the other day around two options, something that can unlock all this commercial value or something that will improve things for our customers, both urgent. Which one do you deliver first? It's like, That's a really, really hard decision.
Yeah.
And so we try and say things now in the vein of, we've made this decision. It was a very tight call. We've made it on the best info that we can. We have to move forward. We might have made the wrong decision, but we've got to move forward. And until we have more information, we've got to just keep going. So it's like disagree and commit is one of our values. But in terms of like the show personship of it all, we just have to kind of be our authentic selves, but also take feedback. So some of our investors say to us, you guys have the vision, we see it. Maybe focus on that a bit more and talk it up. And so I think that that's really great advice. And you have to think to yourself, I'm going to have weaknesses. We all do. How do I make sure that I am presenting my business, my company for my team in the best way possible? And so you've got to take criticism and improve. You don't take it all, because sometimes some of it doesn't feel authentic or, doesn't work for you, and that's okay.
I heard a quote a while ago about business owners and this idea that owning a business is not about how rich you become or how much money you earn, but it's about freedom. And it's one of the driving factors that is maybe not talked about as much among business ownership. And I wondered what your perspective is on that.
I mean, controversial hot take here.
Love that.
I can't say I feel particularly free running a business because we serve our customers first and foremost. We have an amazing team. We have to always be on. So one of the hardest bits of being a founder, to be perfectly frank, is that you might think that you can work from the beach or clock off when you want, but I've probably never worked harder. I would say it's a different challenge to being a lawyer. I worked really hard as a lawyer, and the challenges there felt intellectual. Like I was stretching my brain every day and working through hard problems. This isn't that, but this is like a never-ending barrage of fires to put out and problems to solve and responses to give. Our biggest constraint is time. You're trying to do something with a relatively lean team and prove your worth and prove your value in a compressed time frame, right? So I'm not sure that I feel free. Maybe with more mature businesses, people might feel that way. Personally, I feel probably overwhelmed. But having said that, I'm living for it. I feel so professionally satisfied that the things that you sacrifice to deliver value and have a customer tell you, you've made my life a million times better. Like that's what we're living for and driving towards, rather than me thinking, cool, like I'll take multiple days off a week and do whatever. Like I don't have time to get my hair cut. I'm like, when would I literally do that? Yeah. Am I going to deduct time from my weekend where, occasionally you dip into a bit of work or you've got friends and family and just being, a functional member of society? Or is it during my work days? Like maybe I need to take my laptop to get my hair cut. But so I can't say it's freedom per se for me right now. Might change.
That's such an honest look into business ownership.
Yeah, like it's bloody hard. And probably I'm not here to discourage anyone. If you want to start a business, you absolutely should. But it's way harder than anyone thinks. It's there's a quote that I like, which is it's 2 times more expensive, 5 times longer, 10 times harder, but 20 times more rewarding. Yeah. And that is so true. The highs are high and the lows are low. And if you love it, do it. But it's hard. It's brutal out there.
Yeah.
You're fighting for survival,
Absolutely.
On every front. You're like, do we go with this vendor? Do we do this? Do we do that? It's just a myriad of choice.
I want to talk about service in a slightly different context. Service in the context of your team. Because I'm conscious you work with developers and designers, and there is a multidisciplinary approach to how you are building that team. Can you take me through what is it like to, first of all, consider the different disciplines that you might need to hire for, and then start to lead those people? What's that been like for you?
Really hard. It's interesting because in a law firm environment, the people that are the domain experts are the partners.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they're hiring, they know the role inside out. And so they can interview and ask questions that are relevant, and they can judge performance relevantly, right?
Exactly.
Because they're close to it.
Yeah.
So that's really different in a tech company because I don't code. So how do I judge the qualities of my software engineers? Essentially, like, I can't. So how do we build structures to be able to do that? So for a little while, when our company was a bit younger, we had a CTO who would ensure that code quality was adequate and appropriate, and also sit with us during a hiring process and making sure that we're giving the right tasks and asking the right questions. What's really interesting is that I do think you have a feel for someone about their intellect, about the way they work, about the person that they are, which is a whole heap of the employment process outside of core competencies. But what we have to upskill on as a non-technical co-founding duo is making sure that we do have someone assess the technical competencies. So for us, I actually think we've done a pretty good job. We had one hire where I would say, firstly, he was wonderful, but he was quite a bit more senior, so maybe better for a larger business. And he said to us, like, I'm not what you need at this point in time. And we said, you know what? We think you're right. You're amazing, but probably we would need double the size of the team for it to be in your sweet spot.
Yeah.
And so what we did is you pivot. You go, okay, someone of that level of seniority isn't what we need. We need someone who fits this smaller team better. That's the piece of the puzzle. And then let's hire for that. But that dynamic is true when you're hiring people in areas that, you know, I've not done. So like, I am not a UX designer. How do we find exceptional talent? My secret and my unlock here is word of mouth. We have had other entrepreneurs or investors or people in our broader network say, you need to meet Sarah. She's an amazing UX designer. And that totally counts. So we're fortunate. I think if you pay it forward and you put out good vibes, it comes back and people are like, oh, you should work with the Deeligence crew. They're awesome. So we've found a lot of folks that way.
Really useful. Really useful. Can you take me through a day-to-day? What's it like for you? What does it look like?
My day-to-day? So I focus on the commercial side of the business. So my co-founder works with the developers and makes sure that our feedback from customers is then embedded in the product. I make sure that I'm meeting all the relevant corporate lawyers, folks that do M&A and due diligence and run deals, and seeing if we're a potential fit, as well as making sure that our customers that are using the platform are using it to their full potential. So partly customer success, which is for our licensed customers, partly sales. I would say that's my split. So making sure that we win more work and are front of mind. So sometimes that's going to conferences. Sometimes that's having coffee chats with junior lawyers, senior lawyers, partners, and understanding their business and seeing if we can assist.
You mentioned fit before in the context of team members and hiring and getting to know people. And obviously the more people you interview for your team, the better read you get on people as well. In the client context, what does a good client look like for you?
So if I had like a paintbrush and an easel of who my ideal customer was, typically they're someone who's an early adopter or interested in tech. So we're not going to win over every single partner at a law firm, right? And there's unfortunately a bit of a misaligned incentive because partners that can be approaching the age where they want to retire don't necessarily want to invest a lot of resources in tech that will propel the law firm forward for the next 10, 15 years. That's just a funny dynamic around law firms, but not always. So I love meeting partners and senior associates who, when you say to them, I can help you move through a diligence in half the time, sit up and go, great because that process stinks and we shouldn't keep doing it the old way. It makes absolutely no sense. So I would say someone who's quite innovative isn't necessarily like a younger or more mature divide, but I do find that younger-ish partners are just closer to having done the grind of that work before. So when we talk about how the work is delivered, they say to me, oh, yeah, I remember doing that. So they're in the weeds. And then, I think someone who is okay with trying things. So sometimes to onboard a new tech solution, it can feel like we're taking a step back, but you're taking a step back to then speed up, right? I don't think our onboarding is particularly complicated, but we do need to train team members on using a new tool and a new platform. And that we train in 20 minutes, half an hour. So it's not too burdensome. But the first time you use something is going to feel like it's got the most friction. And then every other time it will feel super seamless and second nature. So there's a little bit of a hill to climb there. But I guess innovative, forward-thinking folks, typically our customers are in two buckets of large national firms. So 400 or 500 lawyers, multiple offices in different states, or top-tier lawyers that have started their own transaction practices. So lean team, but they do lots of deals and they care about slightly different things to the large national firms. Both, really great, quick-moving customers.
How do you bridge the gap between the team members that you have, so the designers and developers in your team, and your customers who are obviously legal experts, and there is somewhat of a gap between discipline and understanding and even empathy to an extent. How does that bridge close for you? How does that gap close?
So when we have new team members start who aren't lawyers, so the commercial side of the business, everyone is an ex-lawyer. We think it's important.
Why do you think it's important?
I think it's important because they understand the pain of our customers really viscerally.
Right.
And they can speak to it because they've done the work before. Like we've all done diligence. We know it stinks. We can help. So I think it's important. It's not like unachievable if you're not a lawyer. I just think you just have felt the pain before.
You've walked in those shoes.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. I think that counts. So sorry, the question was, how do I think about bridging the gap between the team and understanding our customer? It's a really good question. For those team members that are non-lawyers, we actually, as part of onboarding, I run a session called like 101 of law firms, Law Firm 101. And so what we talk about is we talk about the archetype of lawyers. So, and I say this with lots of love and affection because I am also this, but it is, perfectionists, detail-oriented, all these things that are necessary skill sets of being a lawyer, sometimes risk-averse, people that like to identify problems, right? And we give training on it. So we say, this is our customer. This is how they work. This is how they do the job. This is the structure of a law firm. Here are the things you need to think about. We also bring technical team members along to customer feedback sessions so that they hear it and they understand why we're getting feedback. I think we do quite a good job of this because I'll hear the team say, oh, the lawyer's not going to like that because of blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, true. Love it. So understanding the customer for the tech team is so vital because that's who they're building for.
Exactly. I love when you said that the team come along to customer feedback sessions. And so they hear that feedback firsthand in the customer's own language or phrasing or however they describe those pain points or the wonderful things that have made their lives better. Have you had any feedback from the team on what that's been like for them being in those sessions?
Oh, I think we've heard that I'm sure it's useful because my co-founder and I, we're the conduit to sharing that info. So I heard this on a meeting. Someone asked me for that. Let's try deliver it. It's always nice to hear it from the horse's mouth, but also to understand the pressures that for us, corporate lawyers are working under. So, I wish it did this because this would save me time, or I really want to see this next time I use the platform. That stuff's gold dust. And so we have to capture that. And what's cool and what I love about our customers, one of the many things is like they're harsh, but that way that they identify like, hey, well, I want this, or I'm spotting a problem here in your platform because I want to see more is awesome because it feeds directly into our roadmap. So I actually love it because they're harsh, but I honestly think that the feedback that we get is so useful. It just equips us to know precisely where we're going next.
It also means you can respond to the feedback and show that you're responding to it because it's going into the roadmap.
Yes.
And then when they see something delivered or in production, they know, great, they're listening to me. I'm not just giving this feedback and nothing's happening with it. That's so valuable.
Yeah, it's gold dust. It's amazing.
Elle, I want to move to a different area, different tangent. I want to talk about risk appetite. And we've talked a little bit about risk and lawyers being risk averse. I'm really interested to know, I mean, based on everything we've talked about in terms of moving from being a practicing lawyer into running your own business, there is a sense of increasing your risk appetite that you have had to overcome and still overcome, it sounds like, in many ways. How do you coach someone to increase their risk appetite? What would that be like?
Ooh. I'm honestly not sure I would know how to coach someone with their risk appetite. I think I have a high risk appetite, like obviously, because I don't know. I actually think this might be one of the things that you kind of have it or you don't. I mean, I'm sure coaching in certain facets of people's personalities is like going to make a difference, right? I'm not saying it's not coachable. I just think if you don't like risk, then starting a business is probably not for you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can de-risk things. So there's ways to do it. So for us, probably because we were a little risk averse, we did those interviews before we wrote a line of code. We actually, the first person that we employed was a designer to create a prototype for us to share with lawyers to get feedback, again, to de-risk. Then we thought, okay, it would be great if we had the validation of an accelerator. Let's try get into the Southern Hemisphere's best legal tech accelerator. And we did. And so then we could say, hey, we're working with this amazing accelerator and law firm, Lander and Rogers. So there are ways to de-risk. But I think if you're in a space of being like, should I do this? Will it work? I don't know if that's the best frame of mind. I think the question and the way you want to approach it is, this is going to work and let me show you how. I think it requires a bit of suspending of disbelief to make the jump and to make the call. And that's not to say that you have to go all in, because I feel like the classic founder story is two guys in a garage. They dropped out of uni and they're working on this thing that's going to be the next meta. I think there's a whole bunch of other ways where you can do something on the side part-time until it scales up, and then you scale down your full-time employment. There's a million ways to get to your objective. For us, we felt like we had such a high degree of confidence. We just did make that jump and we did do it full-time. So I'm not sure how you coach that. Maybe it's you do it in a more staggered approach, but I think I have a high risk tolerance and I think I should have a higher risk tolerance. It might be one of my limiting beliefs. Like I watched, the WeWork documentary. And they follow, Adam Newman, a fictional Adam Newman. And I watched that and I thought, I could have more hustle. I mean, I don't think you want to overcook it too much and not be founded in any sort of reality, a la Theranos. But I do think there is a measure, and something that I have in spades is that I'm probably like a little bit nuts to start a business and leave a stable work environment, because I see a version of the future where I think I can drastically change the way that this work is delivered. And I see it and I feel it and I know it's there. And so I'm like, I'm going to do that. And that requires a very high risk tolerance.
Has that always been with you, that high risk tolerance, that high risk appetite?
I think yes.
Where do you think it came from?
Well, like I'm the child of immigrants, right? So I'm not afraid of hard work. I always saw my parents working and building their own businesses. So I think part of it is, in my own funny way, I was surrounded by a microcosm of entrepreneurs, both my mum and my dad.
It was normal.
It was normal. And I think we've got to talk about privilege here. My parents are self-made, but fundamentally me starting a business, if it doesn't work out, which I don't think will be the case, I'm not going to not have a roof and food. Like, I'll move back in with my parents, right? That's not my life ambition. But I think if you're starting from that base, and that's probably something we don't talk about enough, I don't think entrepreneurs are necessarily the people out there in the world with the best ideas. It's the people that can take a career break and run hundreds of interviews, validate a problem, and then build a solution, right? And that's not fair. This is my sense of justice again. That's not fair. That's not right. But that's the way of the world. Like, the dream is that we have entrepreneurs who have access to capital that, can build their amazing, audacious ideas. But I think right now the entrepreneurs we have are people that can take a risk or have built something that is sustaining itself incrementally to then take a bigger jump, right? So yes, I think I always had the risk tolerance. And I think of failure in the way other people think of failure.
How do you think of failure?
Well, I think some people think, oh, well, like if I start my own company, what if it doesn't work, right? I think that's a normal thought. I don't think I see it that way. Firstly, I think we're killing it and we're nailing it and we will deliver. But I think a better way of looking at it is, this may be, and this is my life's goal, but I'm awesome. I'm going to do many awesome things. Like this is just a part of my story too. Sometimes I probably don't lean into that philosophical side of it. I lean more into, this is my life's goal, like I'm going to achieve, which I think you do need to be single-minded, but having a risk appetite and saying failure is learning and growing. And if you don't learn from a mistake you made, that's true failure. If you muck something up, which I think all of us do daily, but if you learn from it, you're improving and you're doing better and you're not going to make that mistake again. So we've built this into like our values and beliefs in our business, which is when we have our all hands meeting, the last slide is called Stumbles of the Week. And so firstly, we do shout outs like Elle or Sarah, you did a great job on blah. And then we say, who had a stumble? Let's talk about it. And the whole idea there is psychological safety, building a culture of owning up to the inevitable mistakes we have. The question we often ask once someone shares their stumble, and by the way, like we share them too, is what did you learn from it? It's okay, there was a stumble. Let's try not do it again and let's make sure we're better. And that's why I think I look at failure through a slightly different lens. We are all going to make mistakes. As a business owner, I have to make as few mistakes as humanly possible, but that's unrealistic to think I would make none.
Yeah.
So what I have to do is make sure I learn from them. And like we've made mistakes. I probably make mistakes all the time. You just have to learn and grow and do better next time. Like that's it. There's no room to make the mistake again and again. That's dumb. Got to keep moving forward and doing better.
In the conversations that you're having with lawyers and even talking about and meeting younger lawyers coming through, do you see this type of risk appetite in them? Do you see those skills coming through? Is there a different, I guess what I'm asking is there a different attitude in younger lawyers that you're noticing?
I've heard anecdotally from friends that are teachers that kids at school these days want to be two things, which is one, an influencer, or two, an entrepreneur.
Oh, wow.
Versus maybe the traditional, like, I want to be a lawyer or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think probably being an entrepreneur is in fashion at the moment. And that's cool. Like, love that. Am I noticing it in lawyers? When we went out to hire for a role, not so long ago, we were looking for someone who had, a legal background, and we were inundated with lawyers trying to transition out of being lawyers.
Wow.
And this is a pain that I've felt personally before, because I wanted to not be a practicing lawyer and I wanted to move into something a bit more entrepreneurial when I was living in London. So I totally get it. And it's quite hard to make that transition. So I have personally encountered a bunch of lawyers trying to move out of law and do something different. But I also think that, there's a bunch of people that love practicing and like that's their jam, and that's cool too. So probably if I look at my uni, like my law school friendship group, a lot of people are no longer lawyers, but I think that's quite common, that attrition rate, isn't it? At law firms, 1 in 10 go from grad all the way to partner. Like there's a bit of a drop off, all lateral hires, right? So I'm not sure I can add much wisdom there other than, I do see those people. But also there's a bunch that are happy in practice or going in-house or whatever it may be.
Last question for you. You have a magic wand and you can change the legal industry. You get 3 wishes. What are they?
Great question. 3 wishes for the evolving, changing legal industry. Give me a sec here. Number 1, I think it should better reflect a pluralistic, diverse society. So I think having representation both through genders and diverse groups of people, I think would only benefit an industry that serves people of all walks of life. So I would want it to really reflect the society we have. I'm not sure that it does that quite yet. Or where we have, more women than men are lawyers right now. I think it's like 51%.
It is quite high, isn't
it's
it?
not necessarily representative in senior leadership. So I want that to change. Number 2, every corporate lawyer or deal professional would use Deeligence, selfishly. And number 3, again, you can see my sense of justice here. I wish that the court system was not who could afford to progress something through litigation, but was more meritorious. I worked for a judge for a while, and you can see how the system is not set up necessarily for, like in a criminal law context, people who suffer atrocious crimes super well to relive the trauma, but also sometimes the people that can afford the litigation are the ones that have the staying power, not necessarily those with the best claim. And so I think that feels unfair. I don't have a very wise solution to that. I'm just calling out the problem that I would like to be solved. It's like better access to justice for folks.
It's a big problem.
Yeah.
It's a big challenge.
Yeah, it's true.
Your first wish around a more pluralistic and diverse legal profession and seeing more women in leadership in the legal profession. Talk to me about what that would change. There are some obvious changes, but talk to me about what you would see that change as.
Through the female senior leadership lens, I think we would have a much smaller gender pay gap, for one. We know that women in the same role as their male counterparts at law firms have a gender pay gap, and the data out of WGEA says that it's pretty stark in the legal industry. It's bad. It's really good that law firms now are being asked to disclose that data, but as of last year, they weren't disclosing partner pay packages.
Right.
And I would say that disparity is actually going to grow, because we know that at most firms there are more male partners than female partners. So I actually think the reality of the situation is worse than we know. And then there's also a divide in senior leadership of salaried partners and equity partners. And that's also something I'd want to dive a bit deeper on. So who is in senior leadership? I think it should reflect the fact that in our society we are half men and half women. And making sure that we are capturing the fact that women physically often need to take a break if they're having children. And so capturing how we deal with that a bit better. So what I think it would change is probably pay parity. I think it would mean that we have leadership understanding different challenges for different sexes. So it's not just about things that directly impact women, but things like dads going on pat leave, right? So just being more representative, I think would be great. And I think the flow-on effects would kind of be untold. Like, I'm not sure what would happen, but I think it would be a good thing.
Elena, this has been insightful, probably raw at times, which I think has been super refreshing. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your insights, all about going from practicing lawyer to business owner and co-founder. Fascinating journey, and I'm really excited to speak again soon. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
That wraps up our episode of This Multidisciplinary Life. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give it a thumbs up, a like, you know the drill, and subscribe for more episodes. And if you're interested in being a guest on the show to share your multidisciplinary life, you can get in touch with us through the links in the show notes. This podcast was recorded on Wurundjeri land and brought to you by Sarah El-Atm, researcher, consultant, and speaker on multidisciplinary teams. It is created in collaboration with Balloon Tree Productions and marketing expertise from August. This multidisciplinary life wouldn't be possible without the support from the wonderful guests who share their stories and perspectives, as well as the brilliant multidisciplinary team who help me bring these important stories to life.